Dawson Church, and I am so thrilled to be hosting tonight's webinar with my dear friend, Alan Davidson. So, dear friend is the first qualification he has for many, many, many years, and I've known him and known him well, and you will get to know him as well and love what you know. He is the creator of this new method called Enlightened Tapping and the founder of ThroughYourBody.com. He's also the author of Body Brilliance, Mastering Your 5 Vital Intelligences, the #1 best-selling health and wellness book, and winner of 2 National Book of the Year awards. He's also on the board of Integral Wisdom, along with Ken Wilber, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Michael Beckwith, Jack Canfield, and John Gray. He has a BS with an emphasis on psychology, sociology, philosophy, and religion, and he's really been deep into the intersection of spirituality and healing for a long time. He is focused on fueling the tipping point of human consciousness. As more and more people move toward enlightenment, move towards spiritual values, Alan's mission is to accelerate that process and do what he can to engage people in the practical methods it takes to release the blocks to that. And as more and more and more of us move in that direction, guess what? The whole of humankind goes there as those people who are already focused on this provide the tipping point. So, Alan, I am beyond thrilled and delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Dawson. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you and all of the people joining us from all over the world. I see we have people from all over the U.S., from Scotland, the U.K., from Melbourne, from New Zealand. So thank you. What a thrill to be here with this international audience. And, of course, with you, Dawson, international man about town.
I love seeing the awakening happening wherever I travel, Alan. And folks, we're starting a little bit late, and I said as we were trying to sort out the technical difficulties before we came online that those 5 minutes will be more than worth your while. The wait will be worth your while. It will be so fantastic what happens in the next period of time. So let's go ahead and dive right in, Alan, to this whole idea of enlightened tapping being a mix of East and West. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, I love this exciting point. You mentioned tipping point, and we're such an exciting time in history. And thanks to the World Wide Web, not only do we have an international web of people all over the world right now, but we have access to all of the world's history, best practices, perennial wisdom, everything that's ever been, all the way to right now leading edge knowledge and information. And then we have the very best of what's working through the entire world. So we can really take what is working in human beings' lives right now to help them. And so the enlightened tapping stands on the shoulders of giants. Certainly the entire Eastern tradition of meditation and spirituality and the great Hindu masters, the Taoist Chinese masters, the Buddhist masters, and particularly Genpo Roshi, who's an American Zen master, and his body of work called Big Mind. And then we have what the Western culture has brought to the Enlightenment conversation, standing on the shoulders of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung and Fritz Perls, who I know as a Gestalt student and fan, Dawson, that you've done a lot of Gestalt work.
Yes.
And particularly the work of Helen Sidra Stone and voice dialogue, and you know what Jung and Fritz Perls and Helen Sidra Stone all said is that we have archetypes or subpersonalities or voices or parts of ourself that can actually communicate and dialogue with to understand the psyche better and resolve some of the trauma and the issues and begin to heal. And what I love about this East and West conversation, Dawson, is that the body is the bridge. Enlightenment is a bodily process. And for the 7+ billion people on the planet, we all have a body. We all have the vehicle that we need to now access this new wisdom that's available to us. And I call this enlightened tapping, enlightenment at your fingertips.
That's a wonderful analogy and phrase, and you're right, it is so accessible that all of these, what used to be buried in esoteric traditions that took people years to master, is now emerging into these simple forums, simple teachings that we can use and combine between the best of those Eastern philosophies and also some of the real breakthroughs in psychology we've had today. So go ahead and focus a little bit on this whole idea of this being an evolutionary meditation. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think in terms of an evolution in tapping, an evolution in meditation, and an evolution in enlightenment itself. So, actually tapping has been an important part of Taoist and Chinese healing practices literally for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
And we understand EFT, thanks to Roger Callahan and Gary Craig and the pioneering work that they did specifically for healing traumas and phobias and physical pain. And then, pioneers started working more with affirmations and how do we anchor positive states of being using EFT into the body and the nervous system and the energy field. And so once I understood with my work with Genpo Roshi that the enlightened voices that are already awake within us, that once we can shift into them in a matter of minutes instead of weeks or months or even years of living in a monastery, once we can shift into an extraordinary high vibrational state of consciousness, we can use EFT to anchor that into our bones, anchor it into our nervous system and our energy grid so that we can come back over and over. And the evolution of meditation is that it used to take living in a monastery or meditating for hours a day for months at a time to have a classic enlightened experience. And everyone on this call that goes and surrenders to the process and plays with the demonstration, when we're done in 90 minutes, you're going to have a full-on enlightened experience. That's my promise to you. And in having facilitated thousands and thousands of people at this point, it works for about 99% of the audience.
Wow.
And yeah, it's amazing. And the evolution and enlightenment, which is really important, we stand in 4,000 years of Eastern esoteric teachings, but we found that enlightenment at that point was sort of that moving from the personality and the limited local self to this vast, impersonal, spacious, unborn Buddha mind, or Atma, or Brahma, or beginner's mind. And but in about 250 years ago, some of the mystical writers in the Kabbalah, the Christian mystics, in the last century, Teilhard de Chardin, Aurobindo in India, and certainly in some of the Buddhist teachings, saw that there's a whole new level of enlightenment beyond that that comes back and integrates not only that amazing impersonal sense of the holy and the divine, but comes right back and fully integrates the body and the consciousness. So we're seeing an evolution in enlightenment itself.
That is a hugely important point, Alan, because the old model was that, like the Desert Fathers, the holy people, went away somewhere to have their enlightenment experience. They had to withdraw from the world. They weren't part of the world. They were behind the cloister door, behind the monastery wall, and that's where enlightenment happened. It wasn't in everyday life. Now what we're seeing is the remarkable healing effects of bringing those methods into our most fundamental daily activities, into our marriages, into our work. When I speak to the people I work with, I think, am I respecting this person as a soul? When I interact with my children, my wife, even when I interact with a mechanic at the gas station, I think, am I seeing this person as a soul? And so we start to bring this awareness out of the cloister, out of the monastery, out of that isolated experience into our everyday lives. And that turns out to be completely transformative. Now, you have images in your discussion of enlightenment tapping, images, things like the caterpillar and the rainbow. Go ahead and share some of the imagery you use to illustrate these kinds of states.
Well, it's a beautiful image, and what I always say is the rainbow was in the butterfly before the caterpillar was born. You know, it's almost like a little modern day koan. And what I mean by that is sort of layers. I use the metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar is born, eats a bunch of leaves, and then feels this impulse to start weaving a cocoon. And then in the darkness of that cocoon completely goes through a metamorphosis and then has to develop the strength as a new creature to break out of that cocoon and then emerge with those rainbow colored wings and that spectacular new insect that it is and take flight. Well, I compare that to the human journey. We're born into a family, a tribe, a culture. There are all the systems in place: economic, educational, political, social, religious structures. And we learn very early as babies that we have to toe the party line, as it were, to be safe and to be happy. And if we don't toe that party line, we run the risk of being exiled or abandoned or even annihilated. And that serves us to a certain point, but each of us is born with that impulse to be free and to be our own rainbow unique selves. And so we have to go into that place of, you know, having to shrug off what I call living somebody else's biography of our life and begin to step into creating my own autobiography, or shake off relying on external approval and begin to create my own inner authority. And so when I'm in that cocoon developing this new sense of unique identity, I'm like the caterpillar in the cocoon. And when I can finally step into my own spiritual authority and develop the strength to not need external approval anymore, that I can be my own unique being, that I can live my unique soul purpose, I break out of that cocoon of conditioning and old programming and can be free to spread my angelic wings, express my rainbow colors, and live. So that's what I mean by that.
You know, it's wonderful to see more and more people claiming that self, claiming that self that is the authentic self, and abandoning those scripts. And we all have, we had parents, we had expectations from teachers, from people around us that you'd be this, you'd be that, you'd do this, you'd earn that, you'd live this way, you'd earn this much money, you'd marry this kind of person, you'd live in a certain kind of house. And all of these structures we often just absorb by osmosis as we're growing up. And to actually find an authentic self among all of that, to tune into what our soul is wanting to live through us. I know sometimes I say living from the highest version of you. What is the highest possible version of you, and tune into that and live from that, rather than all of these constrictions, is so powerful. So I know many of us are breaking out of those cocoons, questioning the cocoons. We haven't even noticed the cocoons half the time, but more and more we're seeing them and seeing them for what they are, somebody else's story. I love that image. This is somebody else's story about us. Now it's time to write our own autobiography. So moving now into some of the other parts of ourselves. You mentioned the work of Hal and Sidra Stone and their voice dialogue therapy, and the whole idea that we aren't just one. I mean, I may look like one single body over here, but I can tell you I got tons of different voices competing in my head, and many of those are, some of them are socially acceptable, some of them aren't. Some of them aren't very polite, some of them are pretty rude, some of them have things to say which I really would not help myself by saying out loud. We all have these voices in the shadow. How does, that shadow often is this part of ourselves that's been repressed or denied, and it's there. Because we deny it, it doesn't go away. Often it festers, and then it starts to emerge through
Mhm.
maybe addictions, maybe compulsive behaviors, maybe ways of acting in our work or our families that limits us, limits our potential, limits our ability. How do we work with that shadow side of ourselves to integrate that into our whole self?
Well, you've just said a mouthful there, Dawson. So I want to unpack that a little bit, if I could, and the idea that we have multiple voices. Now, some people like the idea of, oh, there's a big boardroom, and that I have all these voices or subpersonalities that sit around. Most of you will have heard of the inner critic, or the judge, or even Eckhart Tolle uses the term the pain body. I prefer like the wounded self. There's the innocent and vulnerable child, or the golden child. There's seeking mind and grasping mind and avoiding mind, and there's different subpersonalities that have all these strategies on just how to be safe in the world and get ahead in the world and look good in the world. So you've touched on all that. And what Genpo Roshi brought to the conversation with Big Mind is that also the enlightened voices that are already always awake are always there. That higher vibration, the higher soul is already there, and with a little facilitation, they can be accessed. So the first thing I want to say, Dawson, that is unique about this particular body of work with voice dialogue and the enlightened tapping is that in addition to being born into a family and all the programming that we get from our family and our tribe and our culture, most of us carry wounds. And we've been damaged in some way and figured out that, oh, it's just not safe to be me. It's not safe to ask for what I want. It's not possible to have what I truly want that interests me or makes me happy. And all of these many voices of what I call the separate self, the personality, the ego, the boardroom, I like to think in terms of them as a chorus, sometimes singing quite beautifully and sometimes not in carrying a tune at all. They're all singing at opposite songs. Um, it's to understand that all of those voices came online, were developed to protect us and keep us safe. That's really important, that no matter how painful a voice can feel now, it was created to help us and to serve us, but it was created from a limited perspective. And the job that it does is just now you're paying too high a price for that level of safety. So what enlightened tapping does is it introduces you to the enlightened parts of yourself that can become friends and allies and help you stay and happy at a much higher level and begin to work with those old voices of defense and your old complexes and allow them to mature and grow and heal and come into their own maturity instead of being skeptical or cynical or revengeful or angry or petulant or the many spectrums of defense that they can take.
And I love the idea of integrating those and helping those grow up, as you put it, rather than suppressing those, denying those, making those go away. They're often inconvenient, we don't like them, and our efforts are to try and suppress them. Of course, suppressing them doesn't work. That's why they're the shadow. So the whole idea that you help them grow up, you help them mature to where they can play a part in the whole. That's a wonderful way and a non-violent way to conceptualize them. So what a beautiful way to see the contribution those voices can make as we grow and bring them into adulthood. So let's go ahead now and have an experience of enlightenment tapping. Go ahead and walk us through an example, and I'll be your echo. I'll repeat back what you say, and we'll all now tune in and see how this works in practice.
Okay, great. So everybody, I just want to thank you for your willingness to be here and play with us and participate with us. And so we're actually going to go through a process of speaking to a couple of the voices within you. And then in about 20 minutes, I'm going to ask to speak to one of those enlightened voices. And you're going to sense and feel within your own body and your own consciousness that shift of what I call crossing the Grand Canyon of consciousness into that exquisite stillness. But to make that happen, there are a couple of simple rules. So I'm going to ask Dawson. He's my feedback loop. He's my echo for this. But if you're in a place in the world where you can speak as this voice, I invite you to do so. And certainly when we're tapping, you tap along and repeat out loud with Dawson. And this will really loosen up the psyche and allow that leap to enlightenment to be really simple and easy. So how we do that is, first, when I ask to speak to a voice, you actually shift in your chair. You actually move. And that physical movement is like changing the channel on your cable TV or your satellite radio or something like that. And imagine in that movement that who you are in your normal everyday self has sort of been teased and separated out of you and is sitting on a chair somewhere close to you in the room. And what's left is, we're going to start with the voice of the controller, is I'm the voice of the controller and the self is over there in that chair. So just imagine that if you can.
Okay.
The second thing is, when I'm speaking to the controller, speak as the I voice. I am the controller, and the self is over there. He's doing what he does, and I do, I'm the controller. I control what he senses, what he feels, what he thinks, what he does, his calendar, yada, yada, whatever you as the controller do for the self. The third thing is, this is a process of deep listening. So as we shift into a voice, just listen deep into your own body, below what your mind might be saying or thinking, and just listen to what's revealed. Especially after the tapping, you're going to have access to sensations and consciousness and awareness that are usually not normal. So listen deeply at that time. Dawson might be saying things about the controller. I might be saying things. People might be entering into the chat about their controller. And if that feels right and feels true for you, great. If it doesn't, listen to your own truth. It's really important that you begin to connect with what's true for you in these different voices. And I would say the final thing is, just I might ask to speak to a voice, and you may not know what that means, the stillness of pure being, but I invite you to shift anyway and just, again, listen deeply and see what's being revealed. And just what do you notice and what do you sense? The voices that we speak to are archetypes, and they've been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years of human consciousness. So it's in there. You might not just have sensed it or felt it or spoken from that place yet. So just trust that. Trust the mystery. Trust the process. And we're going to have a way of sort of making sure that you're safe and protected through the whole. That'll come out in just a few minutes. So Dawson, any questions for you?
Hey, I'm always squirming in my seat, so moving around.
Well, I think about you as a big Buddha in Santa Rosa that's just sort of spiraling like this. So.
Let's go for it.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to speak to a voice. Please let me speak to the controller. And everybody in the audience and Dawson, shifting into your chair, imagining your ordinary self teased into another chair, and let me speak to the controller. And who am I speaking to?
I am the controller.
And what's your job?
My job is to imagine I'm in control even if I'm not, and try and fool everyone else into thinking I'm in control as well, even though
Right.
it's pretty obvious that I don't have any underwear on. So,
So you're in control from the shoulders up at
yeah,
least.
there we go. Right, right.
Fantastic. All right. But you just said a lot, is to imagine that you're in control of just everything that you can and let everybody else have the illusion that you're in control of everything that Dawson's responsible for. Yeah, that's a mouthful right there. So, what are some of the other ways that you control Dawson in his life?
Well, one of the things I like about myself is that I control him um, in the sense that he's a pretty disciplined person. He works his priority list from top to bottom. He has a very strong sense of priorities. He gets up early in the morning. He goes to the gym. He meditates every day. He does all of these things, and he didn't used to do any of that stuff. He used to be get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, used to drink too much alcohol, eat the wrong foods, never exercise. And I mean, I really, I've the structure I've given him is really healthy and has helped transform his life and make him much healthier. So that's the good side. The bad side is I don't know when to stop. As the controller, I then try and control everything because I've been so successful at those things. So therefore, I think I need to try and control everything. So I try and control the dinner time conversation. I try and control my wife. Give that a try.
Warning, warning, warning.
Try and control my kids. I also feel a sense of inner panic when I feel as though everything isn't in control.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I want to control everything, and I've taken those really good lessons of healthy control, and I've extrapolated them out a little bit too far, to where I'm now trying to control way more, and that causes me stress. And I know that if I just could breathe and let certain things unfold, that everyone's life would be a lot easier. So that's the dichotomy of the controller for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, especially for your wife and your kids, everything would be a lot easier. So, but you really said a couple of very important things. So, as the controller, you're the responsible voice for, what time he gets up in the morning, the fact that he meditates, that he exercises, that he eats well, that he's got a to-do list that's prioritized to his highest goals, and that he systematically works through them. So that's an amazing function right there that you do for him. And then you also said that there's a point when you sort of become a control freak, too much control, and you're trying to control the dinner conversation, your wife, your kids, and things that are just beyond your capabilities.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. And so part of my job as a facilitator tonight is actually to introduce you to some other voices that can help you do your job better so that you can sort of help make sure Dawson's safe and happy and doing the things that bring him joy and success in life.
Sounds good.
So does that sound good to you to meet some allies that can help you do your job better?
Yes.
And that might help you with that sensation of in the heart, when you're over controlling and you know that you're sort of overextending yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. As the controller, would you say that one of your functions is also to control when the other voices actually get to come out and speak in the spotlight?
Sometimes I actually invite them to. Like I have the humorous voice, the irreverent voice. I often say, "Hey, my life could use a whole lot more of that." So I let it. I invite that in. It's just a good use of control is to say, "Hey, we're being really serious here. Let's." I mean, in my office, for example, I often will crack jokes. We'll have really super creative conversations, and they're not scripted at all. They're just letting those other voices out. So those other voices are there, and one of the useful things that the controller does is it sometimes does nudge those other voices and say, hey, we have more balance in our lives if you laughed, if you said something funny. We'd have more balance in our lives if you took a day off, if you went to the gym, if you took care of your own needs in some ways. So the controller has some good creative abilities there as well.
Absolutely. And but also, at the beginning of our talk, you mentioned that there's some voices that are just not like socially acceptable. And as the controller, you sort of keep those locked in the unconscious so that they don't come up and say something that would be embarrassing or cruel or rude or something like that. Yeah. So that's an important function. It's like, okay, some voices never see the light of day unless they're just really sneaky and covert and slip something in. Um, and so, you can really sense how you work with the different voices in different ways. And I love that. Okay, we're getting too serious here. I need the irreverent trickster to come out and cut things up and, let off some energy here.
Yes.
So, yeah, I have the wisecracking old drag queen that I count on to do that for us. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as the controller and with that function of controlling the voices, it would make sense to ask your permission if we could move forward with the process tonight and actually speak to some of these other voices.
Definitely. By all
Okay,
means.
so do I have your permission to do that?
Totally.
Okay, great. And then I would like two commitments from you. One, if you feel that anything I'm doing or any voice we speak to is dangerous or threatening to the self, that you'll stop and just let me know. Just say, hey, it's the controller, we need to talk.
Okay.
We make a commitment to do that.
Yes.
Because I know one of your essential functions is just to keep him safe,
Yes.
which I imagine is a handful because he's known for pushing the edge a lot. But that's another Oprah, ladies and gentlemen, right there. The other commitment I would like is when we speak to another voice, would you give me, as best you can, a crystal clear channel to that voice?
Sure. Easy.
Okay, great. Great, easy. All right, fabulous. Well, you ready to do a little tapping with the voice of the controller?
Always.
Okay, so let me just set that up for people. So I use the short form, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but I'm just going to review the points really quick. The upper eye point, outer eye point, under the eye point, under the nose, the chin point, where the collarbone meets your breastbone on both sides, about 4 inches underneath the armpit on the rib right there. That's one of the lymphatic meridians, water meridians on both sides, and the top of the head. That's what I use to demonstrate. I am not attached. If you have another form of tapping that you like, I'm 100% cool with you using that. So that's fine.
Okay.
The other thing is I will play with pronouns. Even though Dawson is a man, I'm going to use some feminine pronouns because there are a lot of women in the audience. Use whatever pronoun you're comfortable with. The other thing is, and this comes from one of the Taoist masters that I've studied with, I tend to tap both sides of the body at the same time. And I do one underarm and come. Partially because this is a meditation and we are balancing the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And you'll notice as we go through, we'll be moving from beta brainwave to alpha to theta. We may even hit some delta waves this evening with some of the really enlightened voices. So it's about balancing right and left hemispheres. Again, I'm not attached. If you prefer one side of the body, that's fine. I do invite you to switch from time to time. So that's it. So Dawson, you ready to do some tapping?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So everyone tapping along with us, and you repeat with Dawson, I am the controller.
I am the controller.
And I am in control.
And I am in control.
I have had decades to practice.
I have had decades to practice.
And he used to be so out of control.
And he used to be so out of control.
Drinking too much,
Drinking too much,
eating bad foods,
eating bad foods,
just completely out of control.
just completely out of control.
And now he's so much more online and on target,
And now he's so much more online and on target,
meditating every day,
meditating every day,
living those spiritual principles in the world,
living those spiritual principles in the world,
eating so much better,
eating so much better,
resting well,
resting well,
working very conscientiously,
working conscientiously,
just doing so many good things for himself.
doing so many good things for himself.
And the quality of his life is so much better now.
The quality of his life is so much better now.
And I am in control,
I am in control,
doing a fantastic job.
doing a fantastic job.
But I have been known to get a little carried away with myself,
But I have been known to get a little carried away with myself,
trying to control my wife,
trying to control my wife,
my kids,
my kids,
the conversation at dinner,
the conversation at dinner,
just things that are beyond my control.
things that are beyond my control.
And it does cause stress for the body
And it does cause stress for the body
and stress for the self.
and stress for the self.
But I am over controlling.
But I am over controlling.
But I'm open to meeting some allies that will help me with that.
But I'm open to meeting some allies that will help me with that.
Because I genuinely want him to be happy and safe and secure.
Because I genuinely want him to be happy and safe and secure.
I am the controller.
I am the controller.
And I control so many things about his life.
And I control so many things about his life.
What he senses in his body.
What he senses in his body.
What she feels in her heart.
What she feels in her heart.
The thoughts that flow through his mind.
The thoughts that flow through his mind.
The stories he tells himself.
The stories he tells himself.
I am the controller.
I am the controller.
I control when the other voices come into the spotlight.
I control when the other voices come into the spotlight.
That's an important function of my job.
That's an important function of my job.
Some of those voices are dangerous, and I never let them out.
Some of those voices are dangerous, and I never let them out.
They could get him into trouble.
They could get him into trouble.
They could say things that would embarrass her.
They could say things that would embarrass her.
So we don't let those voices out ever.
So we don't let those voices out ever.
Some of the other voices are quite mature and competent.
Some of the other voices are quite mature and competent.
And we let those out.
And we let those out.
And there are some voices that are still a mystery to us.
And there are some voices that are still a mystery to us.
So we give our permission to move forward tonight.
So we give our permission to move forward tonight.
And speak to some of these other voices.
And speak to some of these other voices.
And I make two commitments.
And I make two commitments.
If I'm concerned for the self in any way,
if I'm concerned for the self in any way,
I can stop this process.
I can stop this process.
And I make a second commitment.
And I make a second commitment.
That as best I can,
as best I can,
I will give a crystal clear channel to these voices.
I will give a crystal clear channel to these voices.
I am the controller.
I am the controller.
And I am in control.
And I am in control.
And I am very good at it.
I am very good at it.
If I say so myself.
Even if I say so myself.
I'm the controller.
I'm the controller.
and just shaking that out. If you've got some water, you can have a sip of water. And just sit back for a moment and listen deep. Sense your body. And for those of you in the chat, what are you sensing? What are you noticing about your own controller? And Dawson, what are you sensing? What are you feeling?
Well, I think he's calmer now and has less of a need to justify himself or um, justify his actions. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that he's just more relaxed at this point. I can feel my body relaxing. I can feel my back relaxing. I can feel um, my shoulders relaxing. And so that obsessive uh, polarity of control is, there's a lot less energy there than there was when we began.
Right. So, as the controller, you're sort of, after the tapping, really sense the body relax, letting the muscles go, and a lot more sort of space and movement in the body. And that sort of obsessive quality of controlling is sort of gone, and you're more sort of just present now.
Yeah, and the justification of why I control, I feel less attached to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. So let's see, a couple of people are coming in. My controller is a good guy, much better than when I was younger and trying to rule the world. Well, yes, there's still, Mary, that impulse of everybody wants to rule the world. So, Carol is, I'm more anchored in my body. Um, Jeanette says, I like Daniel. I like being in knowledge. Isn't it a wonderful thing to be appreciated for this amazing job that you do? The controller's monitoring but calmer from Christine. Gina saying a physical pain wants to come out. That is not unusual, Gina. When we start to really relax and tap into some of these voices, chronic pain that we haven't been paying attention to comes to the surface and says, hey, pay attention to me. Um, I'm going to say BECE, B-E-C-E, more relaxed. Um, Yeah, the physical pain is always being managed and suppressed by the controller. Absolutely. That's an important function. All the sensations that are moving through the nervous system and the brain and the controller can really help decide what we're going to focus on, what we're going to pay attention to. Uh, Nancy's just saying my controller is more peaceful. So lots and lots of great comments coming in. Martha said yes, but I found it a bit scary. Thank you, and I acknowledge that sort of fear, anxiety there, because this is a bold promise that Dawson and I have made for you tonight, and you're meeting some parts of yourself face to face that you've never perhaps thought of. So excellent. Um, so, anything else, Dawson, you want to share before we move on to the next voice?
Well, the surprising thing to me in that whole dialogue, Alan, was I've always been very aware of the um, problem of trying to control too hard. But I hadn't really thought, before you asked me the question earlier, about all the benefits I've derived in my life from being in control and being disciplined. And so the surprising thing was I thought of the controller as being a bad voice,
Mm-hmm.
as being an impediment to my happiness. But I realize actually the controller now makes a big contribution to my happiness. And as long as it isn't trying to control, it's when it tries to control things that aren't controllable that it compromises my happiness. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think Daniel sort of pointed that out. It's just nice as a controller to be appreciated for a little bit. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: as a controller, do you ever get a vacation?
You know, I'll tell you something hysterical. You know how I get to be the controller and have a vacation?
How do you do that?
When I'm on vacation, I have a points system. Okay? So Christine and we wake up, we say, today we are going to go to the Kawaii Museum. and look at the exhibits. Today we are going to go at that wonderful art gallery we saw the other day. Today we're going to have this long plan, and then we're going to check our email first, make sure we stay on top of our social media and so on. So we have all these plans for the day. Of course, by the end of the day, we haven't done half of it. Often we've done none of it. So I get points for everything I've failed to do. If I failed to check my email, that's 20 points. If we didn't go to the museum, that's 60 points. If I lay in bed all day, that's 100 points.
Well, it sounds like yourself might be on vacation, but you're certainly not. Someone's keeping tabs on all those points.
Someone's keeping tabs, but you get points for not doing stuff rather than usually in the normal control you get points for doing stuff. When I'm on vacation, I get the whole thing flips around.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
Yeah, beautiful. But the sense is you're sort of there assisting the self all the time and there to support him and help him and just make sure he gets through the day. So, it is an amazing gift and service you offer the self. So I'm glad that you got to appreciate that. All right, great. So let me speak to another voice. Let me speak to the voice of desire. And everybody shifting in your chair. And who am I speaking to?
I am the voice of desire.
And what are you desiring?
Well, what I desire more than anything else is to live with less pressure. I have so much pressure. I'm managing so many things. I'm coordinating so many things that I'm juggling so many things that I've been doing this for 50 years, and it's just I'm just at a time in my life when I don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to do this. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to be having as much responsibility. I don't want to be trying to keep so many things together. So my strongest desire is to move into a leisure lifestyle. My wife, Christine, is really good at this. She just wakes up. She's a very, very relaxed person. She speaks slowly. She takes care of herself effortlessly. And she's a wonderful reminder to me of the value of doing that. So the thing I most desire is to have a much more leisurely lifestyle, leisurely pace, and to really move back from this high-octane, achievement-oriented life I've had for my whole life since I was a teenager.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of doing going on, and you're really ready for him to step back and just sort of have a little more being and relaxation and enjoyment.
That's what I desire the most strongly of everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in addition to that, what are some of the other things you desire for him?
He's very lucky. He has so much. He has amazing children. He has a fantastic team. He has a marriage that most people can only dream about. He's physically healthy. He lives in a gorgeous environment. He meets just remarkable people. If you just look at the outer circumstances of his life, they're almost hard to improve. And so...
Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. So all these wonderful things that he has in his life, aren't they a result of you desiring them for him in the first place? Desiring a beautiful place to live, desiring a beautiful wife, desiring a wonderful marriage, a wonderful relationship with your children. So the fact that he has those is evidence of what a great job you're helping him with in his life.
All of them are consciously created to some extent. I mean, there's just divine gifts we get as well, but they're also the result of consciousness. They're saying, the fact that we have a wonderful marriage is because we really take care of the marriage. We do things. We have a whole group of practices and skills we do together as a couple to strengthen our relationship. Same thing with the kids. We invest time and energy with her kids and my kids. So they are the result of consciousness as well. So they are consciously created. It isn't just, oh, I'd love to have this thing. I'd love to have this thing, and I'm willing to take concrete steps to
Hmm.
make it happen.
Yeah. And as the voice of desire, you're the one that sort of keeps that flame alive. I want that ecstatic, intimate love with my partner, and let's, working with the controller. Now let's do those rituals and practices that keep us that connected. So, well, let me also just say, as the voice of desire, there's also just the pleasures for delicious food and heartfelt conversations. And I know you, Dawson, you've got friendships all over the world of people you love and people who love you, and you're always having rich, delightful, fun conversations with amazing people.
I do have all those gifts, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to point out that's, again, a reflection of that intention, that desire that you have of the things you want in your life. So
Yes.
I want to ask to speak to a sort of a sophisticated part of you as the voice of desire, and it's the voice of the one who seeks the way. And so let's move in our chairs, everyone, and let me speak to the one who seeks the way. And who am I speaking to?
The one who seeks the way.
And what are you seeking?
Um, I seek wisdom for how to move forward in each area of my life.
Wisdom.
Wisdom
Beautiful.
to tune into the universe's highest possible concept of what my life would
Hmm.
be, and then manifest that on an external level.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. What else are you seeking?
Again, I'm seeking a much less intense work life. I'm seeking a much more relaxed life. I'm seeking a life where I can go away and work and have a lot of fun and not have to be doing 60, 80 hours a week of projects. So that's I'm seeking ways of making that happen.
Yeah. Okay. And then let me just flip that for a moment. So I know, what are some of the reasons you've been working so hard, to have an impact in the world, to help people who really need help, to be of service to the world. That's sort of ways that you've been seeking also how to do that more practically and effectively.
Well, my primary mission is to get EFT tapping into primary care, and that's into big hospital systems, into veterans hospitals, and really bring it into the medical system. And that's it's a very substantial job, and I've spent the last 10 years doing research, building bridges between conventional and alternative medicine, and doing all the things required to make that huge, big thing happen. So yeah, it's a big task, and I feel I've really done that. I've really done my part in a sense
Hmm.
to make all this happen, because that's where the millions of people are. That's how we relieve the most suffering. And as we bring these methods into primary care, we can see literally millions of people every day who are suffering from pain, depression, anxiety, be released from the bondage to those terrible psychological and physical problems. So
Hmm. So
that's
beautiful.
yeah.
And get FT into the modern medical care. So let's focus back on the one who seeks the way. So you mentioned wisdom to start with. So what are some of the things you studied in your life to become more wise as you sought this way of wise living?
Well, I certainly read the words of the saints. I love the poetry. I love the prose of enlightened masters. One of my favorite books is just a book of selections of their poetry. So reading about people who've done it. I also love reading the stories of people in medicine who have made a huge difference. There are medical heroes, some of them very well known, others not well known, who have been determined
Hmm.
to shift things. And a century ago, we were shifting the diphtheria, typhoid, polio, smallpox, all of these terrible infectious diseases, which were rampant a century or two ago, were wiped out very, very quickly by.
Hmm.
So I'm inspired to read and look at the examples of those kinds of medical heroes that I turn to for inspiration.
Yeah, well, I happen to remember when you published Bruce Lipton's first book. Talk about a medical pioneer on the cutting edge right there. So, and the mystical teachers, always those great poets who are pointing to, enlightenment and liberation and freedom of the soul. Um, if I could, when you talk about wisdom, looking for the most profound and powerful guides to help you on your way and to make the wisest decisions. So, wouldn't you say you're a voice that has been very powerful in Dawson's life for a long time?
Yes.
I mean, from what I know, his entire publishing business is built on the work that you've done for him.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
All the different,
yeah, highlighting the voices that have messages I believe are important.
including Body Brilliance, Mastering Your Five Vital Intelligences.
Five.
So,
A beautiful
yeah.
book.
Yes. So, okay, great. So let me ask you this, and I think that part of you that has been going 60 and 80 hours a week can sort of relate to this as the seeker and all this seeking wisdom, seeking medical breakthroughs. How often do you find what you're looking for?
Most of the time, Alan, and I'm very careful about what I think of and what I envision because it's highly likely to happen. It's almost uncanny. And Christine and I are very, very careful about what we talk about, what we think about, what we discuss, what we allow to inhabit the space of our consciousness, because it is absolutely, it's almost spooky. If we think
Hmm.
something, it tends to happen. Even a really, really big thing that we think of will tend to happen. So most of the time, those things happen. Now, they don't always happen in the time frame that I want. Sometimes they'll happen very quickly. Other times they might take a few years, but almost invariably they do happen.
Hmm. Well, and let me sort of tease this out sort of as a function of the mind. So, I understand what you're saying about setting an intention and then having it manifest. But as the mind, if you're seeking mystical truths, seeking medical breakthroughs, seeking new ways of being successful in business, I know you've been learning internet marketing, in the last few years on top of everything else that you study and you do. What's the leading edge of publishing? Your mind has just been seeking in a lot of different ways and different things lately.
Yeah.
And so if we're saying like you're looking for mystical truth and oneness, how often does this part of you find that sort of reunion with oneness?
Every morning, every day. I
Yeah.
do it every morning. I don't even start till that's happened. This morning, I had some early morning meetings. I had an early radio show, and I just flown back from a trip. I'm jet lagged, but I meditated this morning. I knew I would be no good to anything in my day unless I aligned myself first. So Joe Dispenza's wonderful analogy he uses. He says we need to, when we raise that the cosmos can step down its ability to connect with us to a large degree, and then we need to step up our ability to meet it. And when we meet it, then miracles happen. And so I can really tell myself when tell when I'm shifting into that
Mhm.
state in which I'm really attuned, I'm in the groove, I'm in the flow. I try to get into that flow state every morning. So even this morning when there were a million reasons why I needed to be up and running and there was no time to meditate, I meditated every day.
One of my favorite quotes from Mahatma Gandhi is, "Oh God, I have so much to do today. I better meditate 2 hours instead of one."
That's right.
So, well, this is the trick of asking someone like you who is a very sophisticated spiritual teacher himself. Because I'm thinking back for many years with Alan, he was seeking, and, studied psychology and philosophy and spirituality and mysticism and Hinduism and Buddhism and Sufism, and just studying body work and Gestalt, and he was looking under all these rocks, but he wasn't quite finding what he was looking for. And it wasn't until he reached a certain point that he actually quit seeking and started finding. And the distinction I want to make, there's an important difference between the seeking mind and that part of our mind that actually finds that freedom that we're looking for. That it's a different voice.
Yes.
So, okay, great.
Well, once you know how to find that, once you get the physiological feeling of being in that place of having found it, it is such a clear signal that you can then home into that beacon over and over and over again. So once you have this kind of practice in your life and it's solid, you know what it feels like to be there. You also know when you're not there. You know when you're adrift, and you then bring yourself back into alignment with that as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call that sensory awareness of knowing when I'm in my enlightened self or when I'm in my contracted, fear-based, separate self, that's, being run by my ego. So it's like, oh, I can feel that contraction in my belly or in my back or in my body, and it's like, oh. So, and that's what the tapping is going to do this evening. When we shift in a few minutes, you're going to have a sensory anchor of this enlightened state of consciousness that you're going to lock into your bones, into your sensations, into your nervous system, and into your energy field, so you can come back anytime you want. So that's the problem. And we're going to do that in about 5 minutes, but I want to tap with this voice before we shift, if we could, okay? So everybody getting ready to tap, and tap with me. I am the voice of desire.
I am the voice of desire.
And the more sophisticated function, the one who seeks the way.
And the more sophisticated function, the one who seeks the way.
I desire so much.
I desire so much.
Less work, for one thing.
Less work, for one thing.
More ease.
More ease.
To enjoy the beautiful place I live in.
To enjoy the beautiful place I live in.
To have more time for the relationship with my beautiful wife.
To have more time for the relationship with my beautiful wife.
To be more present to my extraordinary children.
To be more present to my extraordinary children.
I desire so much for him.
I desire so much for him.
And I am the one who seeks the way.
And I am the one who seeks the way.
And I have sought in so many places over the years.
And I have sought in so many places over the years.
All the great mystical teachers and poets.
All the great mystical teachers and poets.
The perennial wisdom.
Perennial wisdom.
The great medical pioneers.
The great medical pioneers.
I want to change the way health is treated in America.
I want to change the way health is treated in America.
And revolutionize healthcare in the world.
And revolutionize healthcare in the world.
And introduce EFT tapping for all of its amazing benefits.
And introduce EFT tapping for all of its amazing benefits.
I'm always seeking wisdom.
I'm always seeking wisdom.
And the wisest guidance to run my life.
And the wisest guidance to run my life.
And make my choices in service to the highest universal good.
And make my choices in service to the highest universal good.
And my meditation helps me with that.
And my meditation helps me with that.
In the way that I control my mind.
In the way that I control my mind.
All helps me in seeking the way.
All helps me in seeking the way.
I am the one who seeks the way.
I am the one who seeks the way.
And I have spent decades and decades seeking and seeking and seeking.
And I have spent decades and decades seeking and seeking and seeking.
And there might have been times in my life where I was addicted to seeking.
And there might have been times in my life when I was addicted to seeking.
But I have found my companion finding.
But I've found my companion finding.
But not everybody is so clear about that.
But not everybody is so clear about that.
My job is to seek the way.
My job is to seek the way.
It's another voice to find the way.
It's another voice to find the way.
I am the one who seeks the way.
I am the one who seeks the way.
And I have been seeking, seeking, seeking.
And I have been seeking, seeking, seeking.
I am the one who seeks the way.
I am the one who seeks the way.
Okay, beautiful. So just shake that off, have a sip of water, and just sit back and relax and just listen to what your body is telling you, what this voice is telling you.
It's telling me that every part of what I'm doing is moving in the right direction, and to just enjoy the process, that it does all unfold. It unfolds in the perfect time, and to be patient and just enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just want to mention something to Teresa, who mentioned that this process seems very Dawson specific. And normally this process is done in a room, facilitated hundreds of people simultaneously, and everybody in the audience gets to contribute what this voice is saying. I've not found a way to make that easy to do in an online experience. So Dawson is sort of being the person for all of you. And so in the tapping, I'm certainly using things he said to me, but I'm also using things that hundreds of people have said to me about these voices and my own experience. So if you just tap, if you're familiar with tapping, also there's the borrowed benefits piece of it. So I invite you just to hang in there, and we're about to shift in a minute to something that I think is going to be much more universal and less sort of specific to Dawson's personality. So I just invite you to hang in there with us. But thank you for that, and that's a great observation. So Dawson, anything else about the one who seeks the way? And those of you in the chat, also please enter something about this voice, what you're sensing, what you're feeling, before we make that shift to an enlightened voice.
I think what I've shared is pretty much it, Alan.
Okay, great. Roger's saying, my voice is telling me to be patient as the healing has occurred. Daniel says, I can certainly relate to Dawson. So excellent. And I know other things will continue to come in the chat. But I'm ready to really move on and make that bold leap to enlightenment. How about you, Dawson?
Go for it.
Okay, great. So everybody in the audience and Dawson, please shift in your chairs and let me speak to the stillness of pure being. And shifting in your chair. And actually, who am I speaking to?
The stillness of pure being.
All right, beautiful. And tap with me, actually. I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness at the heart of all the created universes.
I am the stillness at the heart of all the created universes.
I am the stillness that is beyond the beyond.
I am the stillness that is beyond the beyond.
I am beyond the Alpha and the Omega.
I am beyond the Alpha and the Omega.
I am beyond all beginnings and all endings.
I am beyond all beginnings and all endings.
I am beyond all borders and boundaries.
I am beyond all borders and boundaries.
I am beyond all birth and all death.
I am beyond all birth and all death.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am infinite nothingness.
I am infinite nothingness.
I am eternal emptiness.
I am eternal emptiness.
I am the field of pure potentiality.
I am the field of pure potentiality.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to nothingness.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to nothingness.
And I am the great paradox.
I am the great paradox.
I am the nothingness that gives rise to all things.
I am the nothingness that gives rise to all things.
Universes,
Universes,
galaxies,
galaxies,
solar systems,
solar systems,
stars,
stars,
worlds,
worlds,
bodies,
bodies,
beings,
beings,
all arise within me
all arise within me,
and all dissolve completely back into me.
and all dissolve completely back into me.
I am as exquisite stillness.
I am exquisite stillness.
I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness of pure being.
Exquisite stillness.
Exquisite stillness.
All things dissolve into silence and stillness.
All things dissolve into silence and stillness.
I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness of pure being.
And everyone just sitting back, taking a breath, and just noticing the sensation of your breath and the sensation of rising, the sensation of falling, and sensing that pause between each breath, and sensing that pause expanding and opening through your entire consciousness. And each pause opening into vast spaciousness. Each pause opening into infinite nothingness. Beyond every border and boundary. And just taking a moment to let the high vibration of this voice, the sacred words of this voice resonate through your entire being. Just knowing that that space between your breath, through movements in your normal life and in your meditation. Now completely opening and surrendering to infinity. And moving to Dawson, those in the audience, if you want to enter into the chat, what are you sensing and feeling as the stillness of pure being? And when you're ready, Dawson, what are you sensing and feeling?
Well, it feels like a very calm place, and it feels good to go here. It feels good to be in this place. It feels easy. It feels like home to be in this place. And I love that even in a busy day, a busy life, a complicated world, we have that home we can go to inside.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. It's all, this voice is already always within us, and we just have to feel into it, sense into it, invoke it, and let it be our conscious reality. So that's part of the beauty of this work, is to like, oh, I'm in this place of contraction and busyness and doing, and it's like, oh, I could be in stillness. And just like that, I can shift. And I've got that sensory experience of it. Yeah. Teresa says, or Mary says, amazing. I had it all along and I just didn't know it. Um, Rosa's yin and yang energies flowing through my body and being held by the God force. Gina's such peace. It was challenging to type. Anne says, beautiful. Nancy tingling in the toes and fingers. Awesome energy. Words would diminish the experience. Hallelujah. Um, Gina said, I could feel those things you said as we tapped. Beasts, amazing, truly stepping into the void and beyond. Juanita, I'm vibrating at a frequency of peace and wholeness. Dawn is expansion. So beautiful. Keep entering into the chat. And let's just let this stillness move through us for just a moment. If we were at a retreat, would take an hour or 90 minutes just to sit and play with this voice. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of that. This is a demonstration. So there's another quality of enlightenment I want you to sense in just a moment. Thedra says, deep connection yet relaxed. Deborah, I am light. Wendy, love and joy and peace to all of you. Cynthia says, there's a heaviness in my hands, but I feel very much in the stillness. Denise Simpson says, tranquility. Stephanie is ready for a deep delta sleep now. That's one of the benefits people talk about this enlightened tapping. They sleep well. So, well, Dawson, you ready to shift and speak to another facet of enlightenment?
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's shift. Let me speak to the unconditional love of the Divine Mother, and shifting. And who am I speaking to?
The unconditional love of the Divine Mother.
Beautiful. And let's tap. I am unconditional love.
I am unconditional love.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
All is luminous with my light and my love.
All is luminous with my light and my love.
I too am beyond the beyond.
I too am beyond the beyond.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am eternal emptiness.
I am eternal emptiness.
And I am infinite nothingness.
I am infinite nothingness.
And yet I give birth to all things.
And yet I give birth to all things.
The created universes are my body.
The created universes are my body.
My heart is the conscious heart center of every being.
My heart is the conscious heart center of every being.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
I give birth and turn energy into matter itself.
I give birth and turn energy into matter itself.
I give birth to the 5 elements.
I give birth to the 5 elements.
Earth,
Earth,
water,
water,
fire,
fire,
air,
air,
and ether.
and ether.
I give birth to time and space.
I give birth to time and space.
I give birth to past, present, and future.
I give birth to past, present, and future.
I give birth to the 10 directions.
I give birth to the 10 directions.
Heaven and earth.
Heaven and earth.
The 4 cardinal points.
The 4 cardinal points.
And all directions in between.
And all directions in between.
I give birth, turning energy into reality.
I give birth, turning energy into reality.
All of my children are my conscious beings.
All of my children are my conscious beings.
And I love all of them equally.
And I love all of them equally.
My love song, the great Om,
my love song, the great Om,
is heard in every corner of the created universes.
Is heard in every corner of the created universes.
And I sing with joy and delight.
And I sing with joy and delight.
Spreading luminous, unconditional love throughout all.
Spreading luminous, unconditional love throughout all.
I am the unconditional love of the Divine Mother.
I am the unconditional love of the Divine Mother.
And I love all of my conscious beings.
And I love all of my conscious beings.
No matter where they are on the spectrum of development.
No matter where they are on the spectrum of development.
The pirate, the thug, and the bully.
The pirate, the thug, and the bully.
I love as equally as my sacred saints.
I love equally as my sacred saints.
It is through my unconditional love.
It is through my unconditional love
that all suffering is healed.
That all suffering is healed.
That all the woundedness of separation is brought into healing.
That all the woundedness of separation is brought into healing.
It is through my unconditional love.
It is through my unconditional love
that all consciousness is made whole.
That all consciousness is made whole.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am loving, luminous light.
I am loving, luminous light.
I am unshakable in my loving.
I am unshakable in my loving.
I am inexhaustible in my loving.
I am inexhaustible in my loving.
I open my heart to all the suffering in the world.
I open my heart to all the suffering in the world.
And I heal all ignorance and cruelty.
And I heal all ignorance and cruelty.
And it becomes whole in my love.
And it becomes whole in my love.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
Radiant.
Radiant.
Kind.
Kind.
Merciful.
Merciful.
Intimate with all things.
Intimate with all things.
Fierce as a loving grandmother.
Fierce as a loving grandmother.
Intimate as a newborn.
Intimate as a newborn.
I am the Divine Mother.
I'm the Divine Mother.
And take a breath, shake that out, have a sip of water. And just taking a moment to sense your heart center, radiant as a star. Pulsing light to every corner of the universe. Taking a moment to let this high vibration of love and the sacred words of this voice resonate through your entire being, opening and expanding through you into vast spaciousness. And for those in the audience, if you want to enter something into the chat, what do you sense and feel as unconditional love of the Divine Mother? When we come to Dawson, what are you sensing in that amazing heart of yours?
That was beautiful imagery and very evocative, and I just feel a sense of deep relaxation in my heart.
Mm-hmm. Can you really sort of sense into that infinite quality of the Mother?
Yeah, uncritical when you mentioned the thug and the saint as well, and that love that loves them both equally is a beautiful way of releasing judgment and criticism and evaluation of other
Mm-hmm.
people and also oneself.
Mm-hmm. And yet there's that fierce quality of the feminine of going right to where there's ignorance. And so let's see what we have in the chat. I like the fierce grandmother part. Jeanette says, radiant as a star. Gina, the self that teased out is getting happier and happier with all this love. Beautiful. That's part of the benefit of the tapping. Jeanette said safety. Beautiful. Denise, hello, Miss Denise, by the way. Increased expansion of unlimited love, far less pain, feeling the wound of the world. My head and my heart are swimming. Kurt says expansion. Wendy, heartful. Thanks, dear Dawson and Alan, spreading the good words. Deborah's explosive radiance of divine truth. 70, she's protecting me and wants the controller to stop worrying so much. Beautiful. This is one of the allies for the controller that I spoke of. That ability to let go of that judgment and that criticism. That ability just to hold you with love. So, I'd love to just, again, hang out in this wonderful energy, but we're coming at the end of our demonstration, and I have one final voice I'd like to speak to. So, Dawson, let me just set this up for a minute. So if we spoke with some voices of the separate self, the controller, the voice of the desire, the one who seeks the way, and then we cross that canyon of consciousness to the stillness of pure being and the Divine Mother. So now imagine that those are actually the foundation of a pyramid. And now we're going to actually go to the apex of the pyramid. We're going to go to the pinnacle of consciousness, to a voice that transcends, includes, and integrates the enlightened self, the 10,000 voices of the enlightened self, and the 10,000 voices of the separate self, and actually integrates them whole and complete.
Sounds good.
Let me speak to the rainbow unique self. and everybody shifting in your chair and just letting that rainbow unique self come forward. And who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to the rainbow unique self.
And tap with me. I am the rainbow unique self.
I am the rainbow unique self.
And I am radiant light.
And I am radiant light.
Expressing itself through this body and this breath.
Expressing itself through this body and this breath.
I transcend, include, and integrate.
I transcend and include and integrate
All the 10,000 voices of the separate self.
all the 10,000 voices of the separate self.
The controller and the protector.
The controller and the protector.
The skeptic and the cynic.
The skeptic and the cynic.
The pain body and the golden child.
The pain body and the golden child.
All the voices of the separate self.
All the voices of the separate self.
Those that have been judged as dangerous and are locked in the dungeon.
Those that have been judged as dangerous and locked in the dungeon.
And those troublemakers that are in the basement.
And those troublemakers that are in the basement.
And those voices that are young and immature.
And those voices that are young and immature.
And voices that are mature and quite competent.
And those voices that are mature and quite competent.
And even those voices that are wise and reaching their own enlightenment.
And even those voices that are wise and reaching their own enlightenment.
I hold them all with dignity, respect, and love.
I hold them all with dignity, respect, and love.
As they grow and heal in their own development.
As they grow and heal in their own development.
I transcend, include, and integrate.
I transcend, include, and integrate.
All the 10,000 voices of enlightenment.
All the 10,000 voices of enlightenment.
The subtle vibrations of unborn Buddha mind.
The subtle vibrations of unborn Buddha mind.
Big mind.
Big mind.
Divine Father.
Divine Father.
The stillness of pure being.
The stillness of pure being.
The subtle vibrations of the Divine Mother.
The subtle vibrations of the Divine Mother.
Big heart.
Big heart.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
The warrior priestess.
The warrior priestess.
And the sword of compassion.
And the sword of compassion.
The enlightened qualities of all the archetypes.
The enlightened qualities of all the archetypes.
The enlightened qualities of the gods and goddesses.
The enlightened qualities of the gods and goddesses.
I completely transcend, integrate, and embody.
I completely transcend, integrate, and embody.
Weaving them into wholeness.
Weaving them into wholeness.
I am embodying my soul purpose.
I am embodying my soul purpose.
Each breath and each gesture.
Each breath and each gesture.
In alignment with my cellular DNA.
In alignment with my cellular DNA.
All of my chakras, meridians, and energy field.
All of my chakras, meridians, and energy field.
Are luminous with a rainbow of light.
Are luminous with a rainbow of light.
From infrared through ultraviolet.
From infrared through ultraviolet.
Each color pulsing with vibrant light.
Each color pulsing with vibrant light.
Radiant through my bones and muscles.
Radiant through my bones and muscles.
My heart and my breath.
My heart and my breath.
My brain and my mind.
My brain and my mind.
All of my choices are luminous with light.
All of my choices are luminous with light.
I am my rainbow unique self.
I am my rainbow unique self.
In 13.5 billion years of evolution.
In 13.5 billion years of evolution.
I am unique in this precious moment.
I am unique in this precious moment.
In this life, this incarnation.
In this life, this incarnation.
And I have a unique destiny.
And I have unique destiny
that only I can fill.
that only I can fill.
As I grow and evolve and heal,
As I grow and evolve and heal,
the entire universe evolves and grows and heals.
the entire universe grows and evolves and heals.
I co-create with the universe itself.
I co-create with the universe itself.
And as I embody my spiritual authority
And as I embody my spiritual authority
and claim my rightful place in creation,
and claim my rightful place in creation,
I celebrate with an open heart,
I celebrate with an open heart,
a present body,
a present body,
and a still mind.
and a still mind.
And I am present to the ecstasy, joy, and delight of my life.
And I am present to the ecstasy, joy, and delight of my life.
In service to the highest universal good.
In service to the highest universal good.
I am my rainbow unique self.
I am my rainbow unique self.
Radiant with pleasure, love, and delight.
Radiant with pleasure, love, and delight.
Making the impact in the world that only I can.
Making the impact in the world that only I can.
I am my rainbow unique self.
I am my rainbow unique self.
And shake that out. Sit back, sit upright for a moment. Letting the high vibration of this voice and the sacred words of this voice resonate completely through you. And we just got a couple of minutes, so for those in the audience, if you want to enter something in the chat, what are you sensing? And Dawson, what are you sensing in your rainbow unique self?
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel very happy, balanced, relaxed, at ease, and as though I've let go of a lot of the preoccupation and sort of subtle layers of worry of the day, and just enjoying that sense of feeling integrated with all of these parts of myself being in one place, in one mind.
Let's see. This is the test. You know, we talked about that evolution enlightenment, and this is it. And again, classic enlightenment is always that impersonal stillness of pure being, divine mother, but it was very impersonal. And this coming to the pinnacle of the pyramid is that evolutionary step in enlightenment itself. And so this is the test that I always ask myself if I'm actually in that pinnacle voice. Can I sense into infinity, into that vast spaciousness, and yet can I really sense myself and my bones present in this moment? Can you sense those two delicious combinations, Dawson?
Yeah, totally. Sensing yourself in that great spaciousness and being in the body is very, very powerful. And we can do that. We can, the old model that I always, when I learned meditation, my meditation teacher told me that you have your special place and time of meditation, you go there, you do it, and then at a certain point you wrap up meditation, end it. There's a very distinct finale to meditation. You then move into the world. And one day I was sitting there at the end of my meditation, and I thought, okay, now it's time to wrap it up and then go into the real world. And I was preparing to wrap it up, and I thought, why? Why not just go to the real world like this?
Well, that's
So
the
I
promise
did.
of this
I
work.
did, and nothing bad happened. It was wonderful. I spent the whole day there, and I've learned to just go. I don't end the meditation. I just go to meditation, stay there, and then do my day. So we can really both be in that space and here. So it's more like just a continuum. We move sometimes deeply into that space during meditation, but then even in the middle of our workday, in the middle of our family responsibilities, we can be very aware of that space, and there's no reason that they have to be separate at all.
Right. And just imagine, if you were to visit this high vibration of yourself day after day after day, and took this temporary amazing state and it became your 24/7 consciousness, who would you be in your life, and what amazing impact could you have in your family and your community and your circle of influence? So, just some wonderful things coming in. Nancy says, bliss. Kurt, feeling whole, complete, and content. Denise says, the best ever rainbow unique self. Janet, I can do anything. Stephanie, perfect integration. Elaine, pure energy. Jeanette, energy tingling through my body. Stephanie, serene and grounded, no more worrying. Donna, wholeness and connection. Michael, very relaxed, at peace with myself. Jody is I am. Mary says, interesting to contrast where I was when we began. Beast, powerful and personal. Dawn, thank you so much. Beautiful. I'm skipping over. There's so many great comments coming in. Can feel the rainbow vibration in my bones. Stephanie, beautiful, beautiful. Well, Dawson, we've actually gone a little bit over in our 90-minute presentation, so I thank everybody for their time and their attention, and that sort of completes our promise to everybody. Is it okay with you if I make an invitation to people that might want to go deeper into this work?
Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Let me pull up that. Okay. And so this is a bit about my Enlightened Tapping home study course, everybody. And just to have a little fun with it, you've been with us for an hour and 45 minutes now, so amazing. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and we really appreciate it. And we delivered on the introduction to Enlightened Tapping, and I hope you agree you've had an extraordinary experience. So let me just tell you about the home study course. But as we do, I want to just say a couple things that people are sharing about this work in addition to your own experience. Barbara Marx Hubbard is considered the grande dame of evolutionary consciousness and what human beings can be. And I had the privilege to share this with her in her living room with a small group of people in January. And she's been writing about Homo co-creator. That's the pinnacle of human development. And she's been writing about it for over 20 years. And we did the Enlightened Tapping process, and I said, okay, let's speak to Homo co-creator, and let's just see what comes forward. And we tapped, and we dialogued, and after a bit, she jumped up and said, oh my gosh, I've been writing about this for 20 years, but I've never felt it from the inside out. And then she proceeded to give an entire download of her new perspective of Homo co-creator from inside herself instead of from her mind. And it was an amazing experience. And so she said the world needs massive tapping for us to create a Homo co-creator in the world. This is Lori Layden, who is the Tapping Solution. She's the director of the Tapping Solution Foundation and the creator of Project Rwanda, Project Light Rwanda, and she simply said that Enlightened Tapping is the future of tapping, and so love that from Lori. And then this is something that I hear often, very, very often. This is my friend Sheila Paxton. She publicly says she is in the 12-step program, has been in recovery for over 20 years, and you might know that meditation is one of the important parts of the 12-step program. And for 20 years, she tried to work with her monkey mind, learning transcendental meditation, mindfulness, kundalini, and none of them actually helped her work with her monkey mind. And in 20 minutes of enlightened tapping, she had the most extraordinary experience of stillness and peace that she had ever had. And I hear that over and over and over, that uh, many people have studied many techniques and they were never ever able to transcend their mind, and the enlightened tapping helps them do that. So here is the introduction to the course itself. It's a digital online training. It's 6 modules designed to go over 6 weeks. Every module takes you through the experience you had tonight, going from the separate self to the enlightened self and to the pinnacle of the pyramid to your unique self. So every module you get that, and we flesh out different qualities and different voices as we go through the process. So the first week is a focus on the controller and working with it in different ways. The second week is the protector. The third week is the wounded self and the innocent child. And then we sort of shift into then really doing a deeper dive into the Divine Father or Buddha mind or the stillness of pure being. The week 5 we go into the Divine Mother and the different qualities, the sword of compassion, the warrior priestess, the unconditional love, and then the fully integrated Divine Feminine. And then in the 6th week, this is an extraordinary module in and of itself. It's the 5 stages of enlightenment. You get to actually experience them and go through them. So that's that. You get the course. You have lifetime access to the website, but you also can download the videos to your smartphone, to your tablet, to your computer, so you own it. The workbook is 255 pages. It's a transcription of the entire course, and it has all the tapping scripts for each of the voices. So you can flip to that tapping script if you just want to go to use that and access one of the voices. You have the whole thing. And then, of course, there are some bonuses that goes with the program. There are 6 live calls with me to actually kind of help you through each of the 6-week modules, and we're tapping on each of the calls. You can volunteer to be an echo. You can ask questions, get your questions answered. You can dial in via phone, or you can access via computer. So you'll have that available. We do some evening calls, and we do some Sunday afternoon calls, so our international friends can also access these bonus calls. You get tickets to a live event in Houston, Texas. You get a free ticket to come and join us. If you've had an extraordinary experience in the last 90 minutes, imagine what 1 day or 2 days or 3 days of being in this energy will do for you, in addition to energy and movement practices that actually embody these states of consciousness into your being. This is what I'm most proud of. One of the questions I kept hearing is, how do I make this a daily practice for myself? So we took all the major voices in the training and just took the tapping, and then we took 5 minutes of silence and coupled them together. So you can create your own mixtape, your own playlist, any of the voices of the separate self, all the enlightened voices, all the voices of the unique self at the pinnacle of the triangle, and create your own practice right there. So that's how you can start to use it every day until you get the knack of being able to snap your fingers and shift into the voice. This is a copy of Body Brilliance, and everybody who invests in the program gets a physical copy of the book. We will drop ship it and mail it to you wherever you are in the world. So you get that best-selling book, an award-winning book. And a special shout out and thank you to Dawson, because he's the one who helped me publish this and create this work. So thank you, Dawson. The Facebook group, if you're a Facebook person, there's an exclusive group. and the group is on fire of people using this practice and the tapping. We just finished a 30-day challenge that we went through all the month of August of people committing to do about 35 or 40 minutes of meditation with Enlightened tapping every day, working through the entire pyramid and sitting in the silence. And the extraordinary things people shared about the breakthroughs they had and the transformation they got from using this process is just spectacular and very humbling. So the guarantee that I offer you is if you make the investment and for whatever reason it doesn't work for you or it doesn't interest you, you email us, we give you your money back, no questions asked. But my second guarantee is do the home study course. If you do not get an enlightened experience, I'll refund your money. My third guarantee, I will work with you personally, either on the bonus calls, at the live event here in Houston, or I will even get on the phone with you one-on-one if that's what it takes and facilitate you personally. And as I said, 99% of people are able to shift. Sometimes it takes a little facilitation, but most people are able to shift. So I want you to have that experience. It's your destiny. It's your birthright. It's your true, unique self. So that's the home study course. The bonus is my guarantee. The investment for this evening is $197 for being a fan of tapping, a fan of meditation, and being a subscriber student of Dawson's, $197. So, John, if you want to go ahead and pop that link for people and also the link to the website. You should see underneath your chat box a picture like this on the right. This is the graphics for the home study course with an add to cart button. And you can also go to www.enlightenedtappingmeditation.com/yes, and that will also tell you more about the program. So there are those things for you. Just a couple more testimonials, and then Dawson and I will wrap it up and say goodnight. Margaret Lynch is a dear friend of both Dawson's and mine. She is a huge believer in this work. At her live events in Boston, she's had me share the Enlightened Tapping every morning before her event starts. She's flown me to Boston for her high-end mastermind programs to share Enlightened Tapping so that her high-level students get an extraordinary experience. She's just a huge fan of this work. Joan Rancat is one of the top animal communicators in the world. She has a best-selling Hay House book on animal communication and has a new book from Sounds True coming out on energy medicine for animals, which is just had the privilege to read and look at. And she makes a statement, again, that I hear over and over. There are a lot of people who talk about enlightenment, but there are very few people who actually deliver the experience of it. And it's so important to have that experience. And so what I want for you is to have that skill that you can shift into your own enlightened states and the 10,000 different voices of enlightenment and explore them and play with them and make them your own, and to be able to go to the peak of the pyramid and be your own rainbow unique self and embody that and own and claim your soul purpose and have that. So any comments or questions that you guys have about the home study course, the experience itself, before we say goodnight. And I'm going to come to you, Dawson, and anything that you want to say or share before we say goodnight?
Well, one of the real benefits of tapping is the ability to release all the things that keep us stressed and bother us. And even though EFT so successfully does that, What is it for? Why? Why be less stressed? I joke sometimes, Adolf Hitler, if he'd been less stressed, he'd been a better mass murderer. So I'm going to be just a better, whatever unenlightened part of you there is. We want to release the stuff so that who we are and the magic of who we are, the highest possible version of ourselves, can come through. And it's just wonderful that so systematically, Alan, you're bringing together tapping and the spiritual experience, and allowing those voices to integrate that make it possible for us to be both. So I'm so grateful that you've felt called to do this, and that you're offering this to people, and that you're pursuing this as a way of bringing the two together. I think that it's going to really help people in a dramatic way, in a way in which either one of the two methods alone couldn't do. So bless you, my brother and my friend, and thank you ever so much.
Well, you're welcome, and it's such a privilege and a pleasure to be a peer. What you're doing, combining tapping with Gestalt and intimacy and relationships. And I know you have your own meditation practice with tapping that you're playing with, and you'll get around to sharing with the world at some point. But we're really at an extraordinary tipping point in time, and 3% of the world's population are dancing around what we call embodied enlightenment, maybe 4% at this point. And if we collectively shift that to 10%, which I think is doable in our lifetime, with the skills and the tools that we have to help people grow and heal, just imagine what the world would be like. If you read David Hawkins' work, Power versus Force, and his map of consciousness, he said one person vibrating at a high level of 700 at the level of enlightenment offsets 30,000 people who are vibrating at an energy of fear. So for every person that steps up and embodies their enlightenment, we're not only offsetting the vibration of fear of 30,000 people, but we're also holding the space for those people to heal and step up into their own enlightenment. And it's a tipping point that is going to be an amazing shift in human evolution on this planet. And I am so happy to be a part of this movement and to be with people like you, Dawson. So thank you so much with everybody. So any final comments from people in the chat? Any final questions before we say goodbye? Thank you for your time and your attention, hanging out with us. We're at the 2-hour mark, and there's still well over 100 plus people on the line with us, so thank you.
Bless you. And again, that's a wonderful point you made at the very end there. Do it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone. Let's give the website name one more time, Alan.
Sure. It's enlightenedtappingmeditation.com/yes. And then also in the little graphic right there under your chat books, you can put add to cart. And I just also want to tell people you're going to get a notice tomorrow. I'm going to do another 90-day training Thursday night, and it'll be available through the weekend, called Enlightenment Amazing States to Permanent Traits. So it's sort of how this works and why it works and why it's essential for you. So, yes, and there will be a replay of this. You'll get an email about it in a couple of hours, actually, once the replay's posted, so that'll be available to you. But look for an invitation to join us in a few days to go behind the curtain as to how this works and why it works. So Michael says, thank you so much. I enjoyed the experience. Denise says, heart full of gratitude. Dia says, what a gift. I'm looking forward to having a great experience myself. Kathy says, thank you. Beast says, thank you so much. Love and light. Kurt says thank you too and goodbye from Scotland. I want to say a special shout out to Kurt because it's got to be 4 in the morning in Scotland. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for being with us. Beautiful. So thank you, everybody. And there's lots of comments that have come through the chat that we couldn't actually read and acknowledge, but we appreciate the the weaving of energy that we've created worldwide tonight, from Scotland to Melbourne to New Zealand, South America, United States, Canada. I think I saw somebody from Hong Kong on there. So we've anchored this vibration all over the planet this evening, and we've uplifted in our own way for a few minutes the entire vibration of humanity. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be with each of you, and we thank you for your time and your attention. So that said, I'm going to say goodnight, everybody. Really, really appreciate you, and thanks so much.
Good night, and thank you all so much. Bless you all.